no secret that student conduct on school buses can occasionally get out of hand. Well, the Sulphur Springs School District feels that they have what they hope will be a deterrent to any mischievous activity on school buses. They've installed video cameras, and this morning we got a demonstration from Transportation Director Jimmy Jones.
Well, we had an opportunity to have this video camera system on a 30-day approval, see how it would work for our particular school district. And the reason why I wanted to try it and see how it would work is because I'd heard so many other districts had phenomenal success in improving their discipline on the buses, which in turn creates safer operating conditions, which is the bottom line and the thing that I'm very interested in.
Now, I understand you don't have cameras on every bus at this point.
Not at this point, because we're just strictly in a trial basis and seeing how they will work on a percentage of the buses.
You only tried this the last few days before the Christmas break. Could you see any results over that little short period?
Tremendous results. On one particular route, the driver told me that he could tell a 90% improvement on the discipline on the bus and the type of behavior that kind of distracted him from time to time is noticeable improvement.
Was this something that you were forced into doing because of vandalism and discipline, or is it a situation where you're just going to give it a shot and see what it'll improve?
Simply a tool to help improve our ability to cut down on unnecessary vandalism on the buses. We've been frustrated from time to time because we would work on the buses and get them all in good shape, and just to have find something torn up, it's kind of distressing, but this is a tool to help prevent that and maybe pinpoint to people exactly who are doing it and let them bear the cost of it.
And it is a small percentage of kids that do cause problems, isn't it?
Certainly, yes, sir. It's a very small percentage. We, as a district, we're very fortunate. This particular black box would go on the top portion of every bus on the interior, as you kind of can see here. Then inside this black box there is a video camera that fits inside and shoots at an angle which comes out that one-way mirror, and that little one-way mirror encompasses the entire bus. You can see everybody and everything, and it's recorded on film, and then if we have an incident on the bus, then it's captured.
Do you review the film of each bus? That can be kind of time consuming, or do you just tell the driver tells you you need to look at this?
Only when they indicate to me. That's the only system I've come up with yet. It's early, too early. But as of right now, only if the driver indicates to me there's a need to review it, then I review it. And sometimes I have caught myself just going ahead and reviewing it just so I can learn, train my eye on how to view it and be accurate with what I'm looking at.
Must be remembered that the cameras are being used on a 30-day approval basis, and they're really hoping that it improves safety outside of catching those who might be up to no good. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. As we reported about a month ago on 18 Country, the 911 emergency system at the Sulphur Springs Police Department has been installed and is ready to go in service sometime in March. Well, this morning, dispatchers and officers with the police department heard from Susan Albritton, the company that puts out the hardware for the 911 system. It was sort of a day of practice.
Right, you can hold it up. Right. And we'll go ahead and try that and call some of those changes.
What is it you're explaining to the officers in there?
Well, basically, my job is once the equipment gets installed, is to come out and train the dispatchers and the relief dispatchers how to use the 911 equipment.
What type of equipment is this?
This is the Cadillac that GTE sells. It's Telpac. It's manufactured by Government Information Services, and it's the top of the line. We're not only providing ANI, which is automatic number identification, but we're also providing ALI, the automatic location identification, where when somebody calls in on 911, the dispatcher not only gets a 7-digit readable number on her ANI unit, but the address information rolls up automatically.
So 911 is becoming even more advanced than it has been in the past, and Sulphur Springs is getting an even better system than other cities.
Right. I think in the last 5 years, our hardware engineer is here today. I think Jim said we had 22 systems put in 5 years, and as of 1991, I think we have 160. But Sulphur Springs has the state-of-the-art 911 system at this time. And of course, you know, as new releases come out, of course, GTE will always be updating their equipment.
On average, how long does it take for the personnel to adapt to the new system?
Well, we're just going to have a short training session today. It's about a 2-hour class. And then this community here is going to have about 90 days to hot test, where we're going to have friends and neighbors and the community, perhaps maybe the fire department or the police department and GTE. We go out and randomly test all businesses and residences and payphones and PBXs from the local motels and hotels. And that gives these dispatchers a chance 24 hours a day to learn how to answer and transfer calls and kind of practice with it before they go public. Let's go ahead before we get into the hands-on portion and take a look at our alley. Okay, that's your automatic location identification. Basically, when somebody calls in on 911, remember that you have the voice, you have the number display, and now here's your icing on the cake, okay? Everything above and beyond now is extra. Is your address information, which rolls up automatically every time you receive a 911 call. So this is really great when you get those prank calls, and you can say, oh, do you live at such and such address? How does she know that?
Can you answer it over there too? In other words,
At the same time? No.
So this is for another call that may be
Right.
coming in.
Right.
Okay.
Now we can transfer the screen. If there's a dispatcher sitting over there, and you might want that dispatcher to see what you're seeing on the screen, we can transfer screens.
Oh, okay.
Sulphur Springs Chief of Police Donnie Lewis says that the 911 system will be very beneficial to Sulphur Springs.
On an emergency call, you can dial that 911 and it'll come into the police department. We have never worked in the 911 system in Sulphur Springs, so I'm sure there's a training period which is going on today, and we'll work with the system between now and first part of March, and then it'll go out to the public. At this point, I don't know how much more it's going to add to our communications office now. It will be quicker. That somebody in an emergency situation, they punch the 911, comes straight into us, and then it can go out to the sheriff's office, the fire department, or the EMS or hospital. So we will be putting those calls out from here, so you can understand we're going to have an influx of calls into here to where each agency did answer their own emergency call. We will be taking those emergency calls and then feeding them out. Now, there has been some questions asked to me, Cecil, on when you watch, I think a show on television, Emergency 911 or something, do we actually handle the calls here, deliver babies on the telephone, etc.? That's not the way the system is set up in rural type cities and counties. The way this particular system is set up is you call me, your house is on fire, I immediately connect you with the fire department and you give that information through to them. Now I can stay on and listen to the conversation in case police are needed in that.
But it does have the flexibility of the TV show if something like that should arise.
It would have that flexibility to where you could do that. Matter of fact, you can stay on the phone with a nurse at the hospital and the dispatcher here, so we could help the individual out the whole time. And I don't know at this point just how many calls it's going to put into our dispatch office. One of the main things to do on 911 is to make sure that this line is only used for emergency calls. And that's something that we'll be getting with the public more and more on through the media.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
Now, emergency service numbers, what I want to work with the
The Civic Center was not far from filled to capacity this Saturday night as word has gotten around about the music and family fun when the Ozark Country Jubilee comes to town. Maggie Sue Campbell is in charge of the traveling show, and she spoke at rehearsal Saturday to 18 Country's Chuck Davis.
How long have you been entertaining in the area?
Well, the Jubilee has been there for a number of years. We've been operating it since '85.
Since 1985. Now, I know since about that time, Branson, Missouri has become sort of a boom town. They're calling it the second capital of country music. So,
First capital now.
oh, the first capital, more seats than Broadway. I think they did a big ABC 60 Minutes special or something like that. And
It was on 60 Minutes.
has that really helped your exposure as far as ticket sales and stuff?
I think so, as far as we're booking a lot of buses. Most of the theaters are closed at the present time, but our telephones are ringing off the wall.
Do y'all do a lot of traveling in the winter months?
We do 35 to 40 shows.
Okay, that keeps you pretty busy, I'm sure. You perform how many days a week in Branson?
6 days a week.
Oh, you are busy. How did you come to Hopkins County? Who invited you here to the Civic Center?
I really don't know. My bus driver does all the bookings for my show, and he usually takes care of it. We have been here before. We were here last year, so I'm sure whoever it was invited us back.
Oh, okay, great.
Road manager and bus driver Ed Gregg describes the members of the band.
Then, of course, we have Bob Leftridge. He's been in show business, been all over Nashville, sang with superstars, and he has a T-shirt factory in Ozark. He's settled down in that area. He sang with Presley's for 7 years. He's been with the Jubilee going on 3 years. He's our MC and our Western medley singer, and he also does imitations.
Okay, I have one question for you. I've always heard about the singing dentist. The singing dentist. Tell me about the singing dentist.
That's Dr. David Struble, the man from Fort Worth. He does have an office in Ozark, Missouri. He practices dentistry all the time that he's not on the road. He schedules the road shows around his dentistry, or the dentistry around his road shows, one way or the other. Singing is supposedly his hobby. I think it's a major part of his business.
Great. And anything else you'd like to say?
Well, we also have George Giddens, our fiddle player. He's from Fort Worth. He's been with us 9 years, I believe, going on 10. And he has been our #1 fiddle player since then. Real excellent fiddle player.
The Campbell's Ozark Country Jubilee. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
Down court is Harris. Long jumper at the buzzer. It's no good. We go to overtime.
Saturday night in Commerce, the Sulphur Springs Wildcats and the Commerce Tigers met for the 4th time this year. Sulphur Springs owned a 2-1 advantage in wins, but Saturday night they had to fight for their life against the Class 3A Tigers before going to overtime. The Wildcats came away with the win, but it wasn't at all easy. The Wildcats trailed by as many as 10 points as late as the 4th quarter, but Junior Johnson tied the game at 71 to end regulation. Then Derrick Henley hit 2 clutch free throws. The Wildcats had a 75-73 win, and Commerce had 1 final shot.
Here comes the lob into Ricky Harris. This will be the final play of the first regulation. Harris against Lance Larry. Over to Eric Edwards, knocked out of bounds, but it goes back to Commerce with 7 seconds. It will be Eric Edwards to throw it in. To Ricky Harris with 6. Harris to Eric Edwards. Shoots from the corner. No good. At the buzzer. And the Wildcats hang on and win it. 75-73 in overtime.
It's a tough, gritty win for the Wildcats. They're third in a row all over Class 3A teams, but none of that matters to Coach Dick Schofield, who's just happy to come away with the victory.
Like I was saying, I am very proud of the young men because, like you say, we came back from a 10-point deficit in what you might call a hostile environment. We had some things that we had to overcome, and we did in order to come back and win. We talked at halftime about intensity and teamwork and team play, and really didn't do any X's and O's. We talked about the things that we were not doing as a team, and I think we kind of got some of those things lined out in the fourth quarter. It's good that we can come back and win a game like that when we had our backs to the wall. It's not good to put ourselves in that position and have to do that. So against a real good team, maybe we can't. But like you say, I'm proud of the young men for the effort they put in. They did what it took there, especially in the overtime, to win it, and it's a win, and I'm proud of it.
You work on your free throws for this very reason here. Tonight, Derek Henley with 2 clutch ones.
Well, has Derek Henley missed a free throw lately?
He has not missed one tonight.
He's got close to 30 in a row. I hope I don't jinx him in games. Derek Henley has got close to 30 free throws and counting in a row, and I was definitely glad to see him on the free throw line. But free throws, to make free throws, it doesn't really take a lot of skill. It takes a lot of concentration, and it takes a lot of guts, believe it or not, to stand at the line and make free throws. And we did that, and especially Derek there late in the game.
We got him with 10 in a row, Gerald says. 10 free throws tonight.
Okay, well, 8 or 10, but he's up to about over 30 free throws in a row, and that's awfully good for a high school kid.
This team on the upswing now, that's 3 straight wins.
Well, we think so. We feel like that we've put together 3 pretty good games. Again, it's hard for me to stand here and say, well, we played great and I'm proud for the win, because it was ugly. It was an ugly win. We did not execute well, but we did execute well at the end when it counted, and we came together as a team and did the things it's capable of doing. But we've won 3 in a row against some pretty good competition, starting with Clarksville and of course, Mineola was 12-2, and to come to Commerce and win is really good. We've been scratching and clawing, and we're back to 500. We've won 8 and lost 8. And wins and losses at this stage of the game is not important. Like you say, the important thing is coming together and being on top of your game and improving when it counts. And I feel like these young men are.
Wildcats will be in action again on Friday when they host the Lindale Eagles. The Lady Cats will travel to Wills Point tomorrow night. Both teams are rapidly approaching the district schedule. Cecil Savage, 18 Country Sports.
Junior Johnson can make it a 3-point play.
At Sulphur Springs High School haven't even had time to discuss what they got for Christmas. January is going to be a busy month. The students just returned yesterday to school, and Ron Andrews already has a lot of things planned.
Our district has been engaged in planning and preparing a technology program, I guess you might say, or technology plan for the district and for individual campuses for some time. Pam Stevens has been leading the pack in this. She's our technology expert in the district and has done a tremendous amount of work putting together strategies, conducting needs assessments from each campus area and district-wide concerns that will need to address the estate concerns for our technology improvement. So tomorrow we're having our first technology meeting with a technology committee meeting with a professional analyst coming to us from IBM. Now this is a free service that's offered by IBM. We're under no obligation to make any kind of purchase of one kind of technology package or system or another. But this is a person who has had several years' experience in analyzing the needs of individual districts and helping those districts formulate an efficient and yet functional technology package, and that's what we're going to be starting tomorrow. We'll meet from 8 to 10, maybe 12 times, and there's only 9 people on the committee. And the results of the committee studies will be presented to the board for their consideration, and then we'll see where we'll go from there.
And by technology, is that a broad term for computers?
It's a broad term, and it is not only computers. Now, computer is the watchword for all technology, but we're talking about video, we're talking about audio, we're talking about a ton of things that aren't specifically related to sitting in front of a keyboard. For instance, you could consider part of our technology plan already in effect is we have classroom sets of grafting calculators that that's really been a plus for our upper level math courses. Gerald Grafton and Mary Mathis have done wonders in working with those. And see, that's a part of our technology plan that's already in effect.
I don't mean this to sound negative, but are textbooks being replaced by technology to a degree?
No, and this is something that I'm concerned about as an educator. Reading, writing, and arithmetic is not being replaced by keyboarding and operation of a computer. You have to be literate, you have to read, you have to be able to write, you have to be able to do the standard communications, have the standard communication skills in order to utilize the machinery. A computer or a calculator is an extension of those reading and writing skills, not a replacement for them. This ink pen is being replaced perhaps by a word processor, but the thought processes that makes this ink pen work are the same ones that make that computer work. So I'm not alarmed by technology. I'm encouraged by it. It's not the end of the line. If we have computers for every student in every classroom, that doesn't mean we're going to have all our classrooms peopled with Rhodes Scholars. People are still going to be people, but this is how we enhance the processes that we're trying to do.
On Wednesday, January 15th, members of the Hopkins County Chamber of Commerce's leadership class will spend a day at Sulphur Springs High School, and Ron Andrews hopes it's a learning experience for all involved.
Primarily designed for businessmen and women from our community to help them develop strategies, leadership styles, techniques, approaches, understandings of the community. And I'm very privileged in that they're coming to our school Wednesday. They're going to have lunch with us, and I'll have a short program giving them an overview of the things that we have going on for us here at the school. There'll be several of them that have never been to this school, and that'll be an opportunity for them to see, ask questions, and hopefully I can give them some good answers.
Will they be working with the students? Will there be students on as guides and so forth?
No, I'm going to be the guide, but we're conducting classes as usual. As a matter of fact, I just finished coordinating some troop movement through the library, because we'll meet in the library after lunch for a short period of time. While we're in the library, there's going to be students doing research. Then we'll, as I say, we'll take a tour of the building, which will include ducking into a room from time to time and kind of seeing how things are going.
Okay. And then the following Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesdays are really tough for me this month.
It's going to be a busy Wednesday month.
The middle school and high school math departments are coming together at the boardroom to, again, plan strategies and conduct an in-service session on TOS score improvement. Our TOS scores have been published. They're better than most, but not nearly what we want them to be. There are different kinds of strategies that we can employ to improve those math scores, as we have improved reading across the curriculum by coordinating efforts between the high school and the middle school English departments. We're hoping to improve our TOS scores, specifically in the math area, by coordination efforts between the two campuses. So we'll do that.
At this early point, can you make any recommendations to that group of what needs to be done to improve?
Well, no, I'm not going to make any specific recommendations other than we all need to be on the same page. We all need to be focused toward the same goal, not worry about, well, this is our sphere of influence and that's your sphere of influence. This is our sphere of influence, and whether it's a child 6th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, whatever. The whole point is we want to improve our students' abilities on TOS or SAT, ACT, it doesn't matter.
The Sulphur Springs High School faculty will be busy as well. On the 24th and 25th, they'll take part in a seminar designed to help thinking skills.
That's not as simple as it sounds. You know, people aren't born thinkers. This is something that's developed. And there are strategies for that. There are strategies for making decisions in the educational process. So we're having a consultant come to us rather than 2 or 3 or 4 of our faculty off to a seminar. It seemed like it was more prudent to bring that seminar to our campus. So we're going to have approximately 20 people from the high school, a few from middle school and central office who will participate in a Tactics for Thinking Skills seminar conducted by Frank Hogan. And that's going to be Friday the 24th and then a half day on Saturday the 25th. It's part of our campus plan here at the high school, and this is a way of implementing that campus plan aspect. The people who take the training will start immediately the following Monday morning in applying some of those techniques and those strategies.
You're trying to bring some fresh ideas.
Well, and you know, really, the more new ideas you bring in, the older they are, it seems. But thinking skills is not a new idea, but enforcing and teaching and emphasizing those skills has in a revival stage, you might say. It's not that they've ever gone away, but we're making a real hard push to further instill the use of those strategies, and that's what we're going to be doing. And it's a campus-wide effort. The people involved, 13, 14 people involved from this campus, will in turn train other staff members to utilize these same kinds of skills. Then, somewhere in the latter portion of March or 1st of April, we're going to have our consultant come back for a follow-up session. We'll do some analysis, we'll do some evaluation, and then we'll do some further teaching. This particular consultant is working with 13 separate strategies, 13 separate skills, I should say. And we'll pick up 3 or 4 of those this first session, then we'll utilize, then we'll come back in the second session and pick up 2 or 3 more. It's an ongoing process. It doesn't just, we don't just finish one day. We keep going.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Sulphur Springs Police Department is looking for some answers. They need to know who stole a pickup and crashed into the garage of this house on Connolly Street.
Crime Stoppers will pay up to $1,000 for information leading to the arrest and indictment of the person operating the vehicle which destroyed a garage on December the 28th. On Saturday, December the 28th at 1:27 a.m., a 1986 Ford F-350 flatbed truck, black in color, was apparently traveling northbound on South Locust Street at a high rate of speed. The driver lost control of the vehicle, which then jumped the curb and slid out of control about 20 feet through a yard in the 600 block of Connolly Street. The vehicle came to a rest after striking a brick garage and causing about $10,000 worth of damage to the garage and property. The driver left the scene of the accident, failing to leave any identification with the owner of the property. The next morning, the owner of the flatbed pickup truck reported to police officers that his vehicle had been stolen sometime during the night on the 28th. If you have information concerning this crime or that can help the police identify the driver of the vehicle at the time of the accident, call Crime Stoppers at 885-2020. You do not have to give your name, just your information.
Morgan says they have no further details at this time. Cecil Savage, 18 News.
Interests of working women, you need to be aware of the Business and Professional Women's Minute Managers. The group meets each month for networking to discuss business news pertaining to women. Many of the members manage a family as well as a job and a career, like President M.J. Doherty.
We are, of course, organization that is tied in with a national organization that's been around many years. I don't even know. They, of course, have the same goals primarily that we do. They're advocates for women within the business world, trying to make it a little bit better for women coming up in their careers.
MJ is currently Director of Personnel at Sulphur Springs State Bank and former Director at the Chamber of Commerce. Guest speaker at last Friday's meeting was outgoing Chamber President Harv Chapman, with a look ahead to what Sulphur Springs business and industry may be like in the year 2002, just 10 years from now. Other officers in the group include First Vice President Charlotte McElroy, Second Vice President Leanne Dennis, Secretary Wendy Simmons, and Sue Miller as Treasurer. Their invitation to working women in the community to be part of a group supporting the interests of and needs of Sulphur Springs working women, the Business and Professional Women's Minute Managers. Enola Gay for 18 Country News.
Like cookies, this is your favorite time of the year. It's time for the annual Girl Scout cookie sales. Tanya Brown is the neighborhood cookie manager for Sulphur Springs. Tanya, once again, it is that time of the year that everyone eagerly looks forward to, and that's the Girl Scout cookie sale, the cookie drive. Tell me how it's going to work here in Sulphur Springs.
Okay, the leaders have been trained, and they will pass out cookie order cards to the girls. Some will start passing out this Friday. The sale starts this Friday. They take orders from January the 10th through the 24th. And then the cookies are due to be here around the 21st of February. And the girls will start delivering after the 21st.
Now, before we began this interview, I kind of took care of a few Caramel Delight Girl Scout cookies. Tell me the wide-ranging assortment that you usually have.
We have the 7 flavors again this year, varieties. We have the Caramel Delights, which is generally the favorite. We have a new one this year, which is the Pecan Royale. It's supposedly really good. We have the lemon back. We have the peanut patties, the peanut sandwich. We have the lemon, the shortbread. And did I name all of them?
Boy, that's enough. I mean, it's always a lot.
Yeah.
What about prices?
They're $2.25, same as they were last year. We haven't gone up.
When the girls come around and sell their cookies, this is something that kind of builds character for them and responsibility within the Girl Scouts.
Yes, it gives them confidence in themselves that they can do things. They learn money management when they have to go back out and deliver the cookies and collect the money. They learn people skills because they have to go door to door and talk to the people.
Are there rewards or awards, I guess you could say, for the girl who sells the most cookies?
Yes, there is. Council, there is that. And most of the troops give something to the girl that sells the most in the troop. They do get lots of incentives.
And for the girls, that's competitive, isn't it?
Yes, it's very competitive. They decide what they want, the goals that they want to reach, and they really get out there and do their very best to accomplish those.
Tell me a little bit about the Girl Scouting in Sulphur Springs. Is it growing? Still a lot of enthusiasm?
Yeah, we still have about 250 girls in the Sulphur Springs neighborhood. Now that neighborhood includes Saltillo and Cumbie and North Hopkins. There's still a lot of them out there. That's 250 girls. We are the largest neighborhood in our council.
And you're in the Red River Girl Scout Council, is that
Red
correct?
River Valley,
Okay.
It covers part of Oklahoma and Texas.
Does Girl Scouting still represent everything that it used to as far as good character and just building things for girls personality-wise and so forth?
Oh, yes, definitely. And the cookies is just part of that to help build more character in the girls.
Okay. Let's go over it one more time. The cookie sale begins when?
This Friday, January the 10th, and they will take orders from January 10th through the 24th.
Okay. Thanks for coming by, Tanya, and good luck on the sales.
Thank you for having me.
Cecil Savage, 18 News. Tourism is big business in Sulphur Springs, and last night the City Council approved the 1992 budget of the Tourism Committee. The committee is made up of the arts community, the Chamber of Commerce, the Southwest Dairy Center, the Historical Society, and Hotel Motel Management. Board President Jody Morris is pleased with the council's decision.
To say the least. really, really good for Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County as a whole. Tourism is one of those things that people tend to think of it as just gravy or something that happens or it doesn't happen. Tourism is hard work, and it's also something we all have to keep in mind all the time. So having our budget approved and being set this early in the year is really good. It gets us off to a good start.
Is $53,000, is that very workable?
Oh, well, it's much better. When we first started, or when I first started in tourism, we had a budget of $30,000. So we're 20 ahead. Of course, we're dispersing part of that out to the Historical Society and part of it to the arts community. But it definitely gives us a leg up as far as being able to do more, spread ourselves a little further out. One of the things that we are doing this year, we're going to 2 states. Last year we only went out recruiting in 1 state. We went to the Tulsa Travel Show. This year we're going to be able to go to St. Louis and back to Tulsa. From the Tulsa show, we had a tremendous inquiry and quite a bit of business that came out of that show. So it's well worth our time and trouble to go into these other states as long as we stay in markets that are good for this area.
Is your goal to, borrow an old phrase, is your goal to put Sulphur Springs on the map?
We have put Sulphur Springs on the map. We already have done that. Our goal is to simply bring more tourism into the area. And as we proceed, as Cooper Lake reaches the point that it's a tourist attraction, this is going to bring a lot of people to this area, and it's going to be really important that we're ready to link ourselves with Cooper Lake. So when people think of Cooper Lake, they think of Sulphur Springs simultaneously, rather than Cooper or Commerce or Greenville or somewhere else.
Well, you mentioned to the council last night that you need to promote that more. Do you have any ideas at this point as to how to do that?
Well, the main thing that we're waiting for is for the parks area to be finished so that we can get some good pictures. As soon as we have some really good material to work with out there, we want to put together a brochure that will go into these travel shows with us, that will be mailed out in inquiries that come in. We can put them into the mailing program with the Northeast Texas Tourism Council and really just get some good coverage the way we have put Sulphur Springs together as a tourist package.
And also, you would like another sign, this one on the east side of town.
Yes. We have had a tremendous response from that sign. I think everybody locally enjoys it about as much as the tourists do, because it keeps everybody informed about what's happening here. But it has been such a good response that we would really like to see one on the east side for westbound traffic. The same kind of sign, we'll have to find a legal location, because of course the government has got regulations about where you can put up signs. But this one that we have has done so much for us. We feel sure that the westbound sign would just multiply that.
Put a dollar figure on how much tourism brought into Sulphur Springs in 1991.
Oh, that would be hard for me to do from my vantage point, because I'm not in that central location with the chamber anymore, but you can pretty well figure that every visitor that comes to Sulphur Springs drops $100. So you can just take that and multiply it, by whatever number you see from your vantage point. One of the councilmen last night was talking about the Dan Diaper tours that come through and stop at his establishment out on the interstate. And he has a good count. He's in a good position to keep a count on that. But from where I am, we have a lot of visitors in our center here, but we don't really have the vehicle or the mechanism to keep a track on it like we'd like to. At some point in the future, I hope we can get that installed so we have a real good idea of what we're bringing in.
Sulphur Springs now has, I guess you would say, a new industry, tourism.
Oh, absolutely. It's an industry that has been building. It is, well, the Southwest Area Center is a good example of that. We have, at this time, we have 4 people on our staff, actually 5 people on our staff. That's 5 jobs that didn't exist a year ago. So if you look at it in those terms, every time you increase your tourism, you increase your jobs. And there again, that's a place where the average person simply does not realize that tourism is jobs. Tourism is industry. Tourism is tax money. Tourism is economic development.
As a matter of fact, tourism means $19 billion a year to the state of Texas. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Sulphur Springs School Superintendent Danny Durham has announced his retirement plans. It's actually the second time that he has gone into retirement. He did so several years ago as curriculum director, but was brought back as superintendent. But this time it's for real. And yesterday at the Sulphur Springs High School Library, friends gathered to say goodbye and, of course, the gifts.
Normally, when someone retires in the Sulphur Springs Independent School District, we give them a plaque. You already have a plaque. We are very fiscally conservative in the Sulphur Springs Independent School District. So, in 1986, you got one, and it had 21 and 36. So when you go home, if you will take this 21 and put that over one of the terms, and then this 36, and thank you for being our superintendent.
Yeah. I sure will.
You really didn't think I'd do that, did you?
Yeah.
Presented to Danny Durham in appreciation for loyal and dedicated service to public education. Now this, you know, the 36,
yeah.
Go here where you had the other thing a couple of years ago. Sulphur Springs Independent School District, 21 years. Sulphur Springs Board of Education, January 1992. We've really been lucky to have you as our superintendent. You have been a wonderful leader, a wonderful educational guide for Sulphur Springs. The kids have benefited because of you.
Well, thank you, but this reads a great deal like the plaque that I wrote for myself a few years ago.
That's right. That was the plaque I wanted the little numbers to go over.
I used to be the one, and with the help of some of the other people that wrote these plaques, and anyway, I appreciate it, and appreciate all y'all coming out, and most of you from personnel records. I know your age and what you look like, some of you 20, 30 years ago, and I want to say that this has probably been the nicest thing that ever happened to me, to get to be the superintendent of Sulphur Springs. I felt it was time for me to move on because of some other things, some things that I might want to do. And I think I've left the district in good hands. I think the board made a wise choice in electing Mr. Glover. He knows the hooks and the crooks. And I'll just say this, I consider all of you my friend. And if I ever enter politics, I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Also, while we have you up here, on behalf of the board and administrative staff, central administration, and the principals, we have a little gift for you. We know you're going to do a lot of traveling, now, especially this summer, and Mary Lou and you'll get off and do a little traveling, so we have this for you, and we'd like for you to take this in appreciation for all the years of service and good friendship.
Thank you, Paul.
All righty.
Is this, what are we supposed to do now?
You can open that if you want to. If you want me to open it.
Well, before you open that.
Oh.
This is for when you're not traveling. And I'm going to read this plaque. First inductee, Armadillo Hall of Fame, Dan Durham.
For those of you who don't know, and I hope, I don't do too well with game wardens. There's not one present, is there? I hope the armadillo is not a protected species, because I've caught 40 in the last 2 years at Sulphur Bluff. And that's what, for those of you who don't know, that's what this is all about. I even got a little armadillo for Christmas, and an armadillo cap too. So, unfortunately, during the month of December, I've caught 4 skunks and no armadillo. And the way I dispose of those skunks is I leave me about 10 foot of baling wire. The trap looks about like this, and I set it beside the house, and I gently drag that trap about 75 yards to a pool and gently roll that trap under the water. And you know, there's never any smell. I used to do it with a .22, and there was always a lot of smell. Thank you. Well, once again, thank you for all coming, and I'm not gone, and I'm not dead, and I'll say one thing about retirement. It's better the second time than it is the first. So I challenge each of you to try it twice. There's two rungs left on that ladder, so who knows? You know, when you're only 48.
Pardon me, you are lying.
Oh, no.
No, yes, you are lying.
Well, senility you forget.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Danny Durham,
Thank you very much.
former superintendent at Sulphur Springs, about to enjoy the good life. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
Don't lose your little numbers.
No, I've got them in my hand.
Already this school year, Sulphur Springs High School has put 3 teams in the state playoffs. The Wildcat football team, of course, the volleyball team, and the cross-country teams. Well, now the Sulphur Springs Lady Wildcats may be ready to join that select group. The Wildcats improved their record to 15-5 with a 63-35 blowout win of the Wills Point Tigers last night in Wills Point. And now the Lady Cats will be off until Friday when they open the District 15 4A race at Texas High against the Lady Tigers.
It was a good game for us right before district. We were real balanced in our scoring. We had 4 people in double figures, probably the first time all year we've done that. Starters only played about a half of the game, and the subs played pretty close to a half, and it was good for everybody to get a chance to contribute a lot. And it was good to get some experience for a lot of people. In district coming up, you never know when we're going to need somebody to step in and do something. Kay Harper scored 18 points to lead us. Amy Anderson 16, Sheila Sims 12, and Kelly Bell 10.
As you mentioned, it's your final tune-up before district. I asked you several times, how do you feel about this team now?
I still feel good about the team. It's going to be a tough district race. We're 15-5, and we got the 4th best record. So you know, it's hard to compare. Texas High's not lost, but I know they haven't played the schedule that we've played, or Paris has played, or North Lamar's played. Mount Pleasant's only lost 4. North Lamar's only lost 3. And we've lost 5. Paris has lost 6 or 7. So everybody's going to be up there. And if anybody's going to be weak, it'll be Liberty Ilo. They've had a pretty tough time. But it's going to be a tough district, but I think we got a shot.
Do you see a key for winning the district? Is it staying healthy or just playing as a team or what?
Well, staying healthy is always the key, you know, but this year we've really not had any problem with that. We've got 2 or 3 people that get, you know, their knee hurts or their shoulder hurts after a game, whatever. But as far as having to miss a game, so far we haven't had any problems with that. Playing together is not going to be a problem with our team. That's our strength. If the sum of our parts is not equal to the talent. Our team is better than the players because of the way we play. And I think as far as on the court, the key is going to be rebounding. If we can keep Paris and North Lamar and Texas High off the boards, we should be pretty successful. If we can't do that, they can get us down.
The Lady Wildcats do open the District 15 4A race this coming Friday night when they travel to Texas High. The rest of their schedule looks this way. Tuesday the 14th, they will be at home against Mount Pleasant. On Friday, January 17th, at home against North Lamar. Then on the 21st, that's a Tuesday night, the Lady Cats will travel to Texarkana to battle Liberty Ilo. The 24th of January, maybe one of their biggest games of the year, they'll be at Wildcat Gym hosting Paris. Then Tuesday, January 28th, the district race turns around when Texas High comes to Sulphur Springs, and on the 31st, the Lady Wildcats will travel to Mount Pleasant. Sulphur Springs Lady Wildcats hoping to make a big run at the District 15 4A Championship, and this is a club that just might do it. Cecil Savage, 18 Country Sports. Long look at this zip code and then forget about it, because February 1st, Sulphur Springs will be getting a new zip code. Postmaster Elroy Doggett made the announcement.
It's 75483, which is just one digit from the current zip code for all of Sulphur Springs. And of course, the daily newspaper had it 74583, I think, but they did make a correction, so did have several calls on that, but it is straight now.
What was the reason for the change?
Okay, basically it's to help the Postal Service and to help the customer also. When a town gets the size Sulphur Springs is, they normally go into multiple zip codes. Comparing Sulphur Springs with Weatherford, for instance, which is a similar sized town, which is my hometown, they have a separate zip code for the box section, also for the rural routes, and we're not to that point yet, but we may eventually. I can see that happening in sometime distant future.
Do you expect there to be any confusion over this change for the general public?
I don't think so. I think most folks have accepted it readily, or so they seem. I haven't had any complaints directly from any customers. I've had several inquiries and calls about it and questions, but no, everybody seems to be taking it in stride and accepting it as a progressive move. So it's working out real well.
Now this goes into effect February 1st. Will there be any kind of grace period for those who might forget?
Sure. You know, if it continues coming to 75482, that's not going to be a problem. So we encourage people to notify correspondents when they can. But if something comes with the old zip code on it down the line, say even a couple of years from now, it may be delayed some, but it's not going to be a problem.
And we need to kind of warn businesses in particular to get their letterheads changed and so forth.
Correct. Again, we don't expect anybody to go out and waste a lot of money when they've got a lot of letterhead and stuff still on hand, envelopes, that kind of thing. But when they do run out, we ask them to reorder with the new zip code on it.
Several years ago, the addition to the zip code began the additional 4 numbers. Explain that process.
Okay, I'll see if I can. There's some technicalities in there that I can't recall offhand. The first 2 digits, I think, are considered a segment, and the last 2 digits are called something else. I don't recall the name. But anyway, the first 2 digits narrow it to a particular area, and the last 2 narrow it even further down. And if a particular piece of mail has the add-on zip on it, it helps mail processing and the automation equipment get it to that route, to a particular segment on the route. And of course the customers that use that, the big mailers, business mailers, if they have that, they do get a pretty good discount. And they, I read something the other day that just on Zip Plus 4 mailers are expected to save $1 billion a year. That's of course for all the mailers. So that's a significant savings.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. At their weekly meeting today, the Sulphur Springs Rotary Club said goodbye to a good friend. John Ferguson, a foreign exchange student, has been living in Sulphur Springs and going to Sulphur Springs High School for the past year. He's sponsored by the Rotary Club, and today he dropped by to say thanks and recall some of the memories of his year in the United States.
First of all, when I first arrived, being part of the district and that, I was, because I came at such an odd time of the year, which is January. Most people come in, most exchange students come around August because the school year goes from, August to the same time. But in Australia, because everything's opposite, and we have summer in December, January, February, and winter in June, July, August, our school year starts in February and finishes in November. So I had to come out here in January, so I was kind of stuck in the middle of the year here. And so I went to, first of all, the group of all the exchange students in this district were involved in a zonal meeting up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So that was the first thing I went to, and there was about probably close to 100 exchange students up there, which I got to go and meet. And that was my first real experience, and I got to drive up there and see a lot of the country that I hadn't seen just being around here, and oil wells and stuff like that. It was very interesting to me, and that was the first chance I got to meet a lot of people, and a lot of different Rotarians and people from all over the country. Probably my next major tour was when I went to Florida as part of the youth at the Methodist Church here. We went to Disney World in Florida. We spent close to 10 days, I think, over there, 5 to 10 days. I can't remember exactly, it's been a while ago. But close to 5 to 10 days, we took a bus, so chartered a bus and took 2 or 3 days to go over there. We spent 4 days visiting all the different parts of it, and it was a lot of fun because we don't have anything like Disney World at home. So it was a completely new experience for me, and I really had a lot of fun seeing the new Epcot Center and all the different parks and traveling the monorail around. It was a real experience. Close after that, I also got to go down to Houston, also again with a Rotary deal. All the exchange students from our district around here, which includes Mount Vernon, Mount Pleasant, all the towns close around here, Paris. We went down to Houston to visit with their exchange students down there, and we got to visit a lot of the parts. We got to visit NASA down there during a liftoff, which was quite interesting. We also got to go to their kind of like a Six Flags down there and visit a museum, an arts museum, and various parts of Houston that were really interesting. I found it was an interesting place all around. I had a great time down there. Close to coming back after that, heading on towards summertime now, I got to go with Mike Smith and his family down to San Antonio and stay with them for a few days. Got to visit down the river walk down there, which was very beautiful. Also got to look around, and we rode down there and we went through Austin, so I got to visit the Capitol and saw us sitting down there, and that also was interesting. Found it very similar to a lot of the way we do it at home, although it has some differences. Basically the parliamentary procedure is pretty the same on the state level, so what I saw down there was very similar to what we have at home, so it was interesting. The first part of the summer I got to go to Chicago. We have friends up there who I'd met in Australia. She's a travel agent up there, so she got me up there kind of cheap, which was nice. And so I stayed for 2 weeks in Chicago, and I got to go up the Sears Tower and visit their Six Flags and have a good look around downtown. It's quite an amazing city. It's so big compared to, I mean, I come from a fairly large city at home, about the size of Houston, 3 million people. But Chicago is just enormous compared to it, especially the city district itself. The downtown district itself is so much larger than what I've expected at home, what I've seen at home, and it was a really great experience. I also got to visit a lot of the countryside around there, where their houses are a lot different to what you see down here. They have a lot of the double-story, kind of a smaller house, but tall, and they grow a lot of cotton up there. And I didn't see half as many animals as I saw down here, like cattle and horses and stuff like that. It was a completely different countryside to down here. Once returning from Chicago, around the middle of June, I headed off on a 3-week Rotary tour, which was probably the busiest 3 weeks I've had here. I flew to Albuquerque, where I met 90-odd other exchange students who were from, also I'd met several of them at the zonal meeting, who we then headed on 2 chartered buses. We headed north through up to Colorado, stopped in Denver and stopped in numerous places along the way. We then traveled north all the way to Yellowstone and looked around Yellowstone, which was quite an amazing place too during the summer, very beautiful. We got to see the Sulphur Springs that they have up there and all that kind of different stuff, which was really amazing. And then we headed back down a kind of a southwest direction and went through Salt Lake City and got to see all the sites there. They got a lot of things there, such as the Mormon Temple and all that kind of thing. We got to have a look at that. We then headed through Las Vegas, stayed 1 night in Vegas, which was an experience. We then continued down southwest way and to LA. Once in LA, we got to see Disneyland there. Went to Disneyland for 1 day. Also got to see the Universal Studios, which was interesting. After staying, I think, 2 or 3 days in Los Angeles, we also got to go to the beach down there because it was during the summer. And we headed down to San Diego and went to a beach down there and also got to visit SeaWorld, which was interesting. I bet we do have one SeaWorld at home, but this one was different compared to the one we had at home. And so I got to visit SeaWorld, and then we headed back across through through Arizona and hit the Grand Canyon, which was a really amazing sight. We spent a whole day there just looking around the Grand Canyon, hiked some of the way down and had a look around. But it was truly an awesome sight. I mean, if some of you haven't been there, it's really something worth seeing. Once returning from that, I hadn't done much due to playing football, etc. I couldn't really go anywhere. So for most of the second semester, I've been here in Sulphur Springs, and I played football, and that was a lot of fun. I had made a lot of closer friends during football, and had a real experience, as you all probably know that I've seen. Then, coming close to Christmas, I spent Christmas here in Sulphur Springs, and I travelled just a little ways around. But just last week, I returned on Sunday from Breckenridge, Colorado. I went skiing for a week, and also stayed in Denver with some friends that I'd met on that Rotary tour. And so I spent New Year's Eve in Denver, so it snowed New Year's Eve. That's the first time it's ever been below probably 80 I've spent on New Year's Eve. I usually spend it down on the beach or something, you know, wearing shorts and swimming and stuff. This time I spent it with coats and stuff and snow. So it was a whole new experience for me. And then, so I spent New Year's Eve in Denver. Then on the following day I went up to Breckenridge and spent 3 days in Breckenridge. It is the most beautiful place I've ever been to. I've been skiing before at home, but it was a totally different experience. I mean, it just looks completely different. The trees especially is the main difference that I've found. We tend to have more of a shrubby kind of a tree, whereas you'll have the tall pine trees and everything that makes it look so beautiful. And I had perfect weather, and it snowed the night before I got there, so the snow was good, and the skiing was good, and I just had a really good time for the 3 days skiing that I was there. Getting a little closer to home, what I've done in Texas, I've also been to West Texas with Richard's wife's family lives up there. So we got to visit West Texas during Thanksgiving, which was, it just looks completely different to here in East Texas. It looks like 2 completely different states altogether. West Texas reminded me a lot of certain parts at home that I'd worked on a farm. That's kind of like what it was, just flat as a tack. You could see for miles. So it was kind of brought me back to home a little, going to West Texas. Also here in Dallas, I've got to do a number of things. I got to go to see a Rangers game, sitting right next to George Bush Jr. down on the just beside the Rangers dugout there. That was a real experience. Got to talk to George Bush Jr. and became friends with the Bat Boys and got a ball and the lineup sheet and stuff. And so I had a great day to time. And they beat the world champions. So what can I say? And we beat the Minnesota Twins that day. So it was a good day all around. I also got to see, just this week, I got to go and see the Mavericks play the Lakers. It was a bit of a blow-off, but it was still good to go. It was still a lot of fun. I also got to go and see Baylor A&M game down at Baylor. That was a lot of fun, down in Waco. I visited Waco right quick when we went through to San Antonio, but...
That was a bit of a blowout.
But it was a lot of fun. The atmosphere was just unbelievable down there. The stadium was packed, and it was a great time. And then I also got to go and see the Symphony in Dallas just a couple of weeks ago, and that also was an experience. That building is amazing, the way they built that building. The structure and the sound is just beautiful. At this time, I'd just like to thank every person here that has given me a chance to come over and have this experience for a year. It's been the quickest year of my life, and I've done more this year than I can honestly say that I've done in the rest of my life. And especially I'd like to thank Richard and Mike, who are most directly involved probably with my coming here. And I'd just like to say thank you. And if there's any questions you all would like to ask me, this will probably be the last chance.
John will go back to Australia. He did not get credits here in the United States for his high school, and he'll go back to Australia and pick up his high school studies there, and then hopefully go on to college. The Rotary Club presented him with the flag from United States Congressman Jim Chapman that had flown on top of the U.S. Capitol. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
I've got a lot of things from all over the country I've collected, but memories are probably the most thing that I'll take back and talk to people and explain.
Their meeting yesterday in Anaheim, California, the NCAA set sweeping changes that will have long-ranging effects on not only college football, but how athletes in high school view their future as college football players. Proposition 51 states that beginning in 1995, the number of core courses a prospective freshman athlete must have maintained a 2.5 average to be eligible to compete. Those core courses was increased from 11 to 13. Also, a freshman must have that 2.5 grade point average courses with a minimum test score of 700 on the SAT. It leaves many high school coaches with the situation of having very good football players that may not be able to play college football because of very strict guidelines in academics.
Core curriculum classes are classes that involve the core of the curriculum. Like, for example, the math classes, and they cannot just be any math classes. They've got to be specific math classes, such as algebra or geometry or calculus or those kind of things. They've got to be so many English classes, so many science classes, and so forth. And they've increased that number from 11 to 13. And then, of course, they've increased the grade point average from just a passing grade in there to which is a 2.0 grade point average to a 2.5 grade point average. So those youngsters not only have got to be sure that they take those classes, now I've got to make a little bit better than just a passing grade in those classes. So that's going to be a little tougher on them.
And it already shows up, doesn't it, by the way recruiters act when they're around you, or how they recruit players now?
Right. When a recruiter comes into my office, the first thing he does is get a list of me from me that people that I think can play and that can qualify academically. Our counselors in the spring prior to recruiting season, which would be this spring for next year's recruiting class, will give me a list of all the players and their grade point averages and their class rank, and then I will just send them over to the counselor's office, and they'll go over there and look at a youngster's transcript to see if he can qualify, see if he has all the core curriculum classes. Of course, our counselors will call these youngsters in and go over with them prior to recruiting season and tell them exactly what classes they need to take if they're going to try to qualify for an NCAA school. Now, all NCAA schools pretty well have the same entrance requirements as far as an incoming freshman. Now, some of them transfer rules are a little bit different, but everybody's got to take this core curriculum now. They've got to make the 2.5, and they've got to score at least 700 on the ACT test. So that's getting pretty stringent, and they're cutting out a lot of kids.
Will this, you think, mean for high school students that you better really get serious about your grades if you plan to continue your
there's no doubt about it. A lot of youngsters still don't understand that even though we talk with them about this, the counselors talk with them about it, they think just simply because they were a good football player they can get a college scholarship. That's not the case. Even the NAIA schools now, which would be the schools in some of the schools in Oklahoma or in Arkansas, there's not any NAIA schools now anymore in Texas, I don't think, that are.
There's one, Jarvis Christian.
Are they still NAIA? But those schools are still, they've raised their entrance requirements now, so a youngster's still going to have to be about the same as far as the entrance requirements are concerned. That's his scoring 700 and taking certain classes, or the class rank's got to be in a certain place, and so that's really going to really limit those number of youngsters.
You had a real good football team this past year, but you may not have a lot of players go on to college to play football because they may not be great college football players. Is that a good assessment?
Probably, Cecil. This was a high school football team. It really wasn't a lot of college players in this team. The first year we were here, we had the 6-4 year we had 8 kids signed to participate in college. The next year we had a little bit better team. We had 3 signed. This year was the best team we've had, and we may not have but 1 or 2 signed. It's unusual, but these were good high school players. They're not as big as some of them would like to be, and then some of the youngsters still don't have quite the grades that they need to get in, and may not have taken the core curriculum, or they may not have scored high enough on the test too. But even though we've got most of the youngsters we have in our program have never failed a high school class, but yet still the grades may not be quite good enough.
Now, this may not be a fair question, but do you think it's fair that high school athletes going into college have to have better academic standards than maybe just a normal student?
Well, Cecil, no, I think they ought to be about the same. I don't think that you should single out athletics. I think that whatever a normal student gets in, I think that that athlete ought to be able to do that, Cecil. But even though I think many times athletes are put up on a pedestal, and wrongly so, I think sometimes their behavior needs to be a little better sometimes than the normal student, but as far as the academic requirements, Cecil, no, I think it ought to all be the same.
And bottom line, it's all a reflection of the NCAA, and the schools are trying to clean up their image.
There's no doubt about that, Cecil. You're going to see an influx into the junior colleges now, and probably like never before. The quality of athletes in the junior college now is going to be just tremendous. And talking with a friend of mine who coaches in Southwest Conference, he said most of the junior colleges actually have better athletes than the Southwest Conference schools do, simply because of the entrance requirement. And then, of course, those kids that go to junior college now have not only got to, they can't just go and then transfer to a Division I school. They've got to go and graduate with a certain grade point average in order to do that. So it's not just an automatic thing for a youngster who can't qualify to go to junior college and then go. He's still got to do some things academically to get him ready to go on.
The NCAA also set rules limiting coaches to 3 recruiting contacts and 3 visits to a high school over an 8-week period. Cecil Savage, 18 Country Sports. Is a new man in charge at the Department of Public Safety offices in Sulphur Springs, and he may be recognizable to many residents of the area. Donnie Willingham is coming home.
I'm from Sulphur Springs. I graduated from high school here in 1968. When I joined DPS, I attended East Texas State University, and then when I joined DPS, I was sent to San Antonio and several other places around the state. And then I came back here in 1978. I stayed here as a trooper for about 6 years. Then I promoted to sergeant, and I've been Sweetwater for the last 7 years. So now they're coming back home. This is home for us.
It's got to be a comfortable feeling for you.
It really is. It's a good feeling to come back home.
Tell me a little bit about your experiences in the DPS. What type of operation is it to work for?
We are primarily, of course, a traffic enforcement agency. I supervise the highway patrolmen in Rains County, Hopkins County, Franklin County, and Red River County, so I've got a large area type deal. We handle the accidents and write traffic tickets, enforce the traffic laws, and that's what our primary goal is and what we're going to continue to do.
As far as the office here in Sulphur Springs, what are your responsibilities?
Responsibility for maintaining schedules, scheduling the troopers to work, supervise their overall activities, and do the administrative work for the Highway Patrol Service. Basically, just everything that comes down the pike is belong to me.
Are there things that you, I know you've only been on the job for a while, but things that you've seen here that maybe you want to improve or make any changes?
Not that I see. The Highway Patrol Service in Hopkins County has been performing excellent for many years. I would continue to work on the same basis that they've been working on. I don't foresee any major changes whatsoever. We're getting some new personnel here. Johnny Burns is a new trooper who was a driver's license trooper here for many years. He's now on Highway Patrol. Many people remember Bill Brewer, who was a driver's license trooper here. He'll be here shortly to assume Highway Patrol responsibilities. And we have a driver's license trooper up at Clarksville named Corky Whitley, who will also be here shortly. So we'll be back up to full strength to take the place of Gene Barnett and Roger Maynard and Rex Wadman, who, Roger retired, Gene is the MBI person now, Rex promoted, so we'll get 3 people to replace them, and shortly we'll be back up to strength.
How important is it that a trooper know the people that are around him, and I'm talking the general public?
Oh, they cannot survive unless they do so. They've got to know the traffic patterns, they've got to know all the officials that they deal with. If they don't know the area and the people inside the area, they can't survive.
And that works the other way. Isn't it important that the public know them as well, feel like they can go and talk to them about it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sergeant Willingham replaces Steve Degner, who was transferred to the DPS office in Garland. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Sulphur Springs Chief of Police Donnie Lewis is concerned about phone calls that local citizens have been receiving from out-of-town residents soliciting money. And Donnie Lewis says it's not illegal, but people need to be aware and be careful.
For the last several years, I've been talking with business people here in Sulphur Springs as well as citizens, and there's certain things that people donate to into the police department. And I'm a real strong believer on keeping not only business local, but keeping the monies here local that help local things. And I'm all the time contacted by business people, Cecil, saying, well, I've got a call from out of town. They would like me to donate $50, $25, $300. Yesterday I got a call from a man that they'd called him only $300. That was sponsoring some type of law enforcement journal or law enforcement organization or some memorial somewhere. And there's lots of phone calls that are being made these days, and I think it's come to the point that even the legislature has passed some guidelines now on phoning people that's phoning in asking for donations. There's all kinds of charities out there. There's local charities, national charities, state charities. But anytime that anyone is using the police department and saying that they are giving this to help the police department, and I'm talking about your phone-in situations, well, number one, they need to ask the people, do you have a letter signed by the chief of police that Donnie Lewis has written and giving it to you on his letterhead stating that they would, these people have been to them and that they're aware of this and that they'd like a donation, whether it be for drug funds, crime prevention funds, Crime Stopper funds, anything like that. We do have a local Crime Stoppers here. We have a local crime prevention here. We have a local drug program here. But many of the calls we're getting these days is for journals, publications, memorials, things to this nature. And I'm not saying all those are bad. I'm just saying that I had rather keep our money here local. Now, if somebody comes down here and donates, let's say, a $25 check to the police department for one of these funds that we have, well, then I know all of that money is going into that fund to benefit us here in Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County. And I know the business people would rather see it that way. They had rather see all of their money go here to benefit someone as they'd see 80% go out of town and 20% come back here or 10% come back here. And our businesses are so good to always support us. The people always support us anytime that we ask them for anything. But there is very, very few times that anyone will ever have a letter from me stating, you know, that they need to give into an organization or something. Now, we do have drug enforcement little brochures that go out to the school, Crayolas and things like that. Some of these items, you know, they go out and they ask the businesses for, but when they do, they've come down here and they've met us, they have a letter from me, and I'd venture to say that I won't give out over maybe one letter per year, and it'll be to an old, known organization that does not use high-pressure tactics on anyone. Anytime I hear of this, it's immediately stopped.
Are we saying that any of this is illegal, what they're doing?
No, I'm not. I don't think it's, you know, you couldn't call it under illegal, but you could say that these funds, you know, once they call you on the phone, these funds, they mail you some type of package, you put your money in, and it's gone. And it's not staying here in Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County to benefit us.
You say it may not be the most sound investment you make.
I don't think so. I'm a real strong believer in if you keep things local here at home. Very few times do we have any type of scams going off if it's someone local here. And that's really the story on any time you have anything done. From house repairs to anything else, if you'll pretty much stay local, well, very few times that you'll get ripped off on any deal.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
Even back several years ago.
The Sulphur Springs Classroom Teachers Association presented what they called 3 special awards yesterday in the middle school library. Carla Tucker presided over the meeting.
First of all, I would like to say that the woman, as I said before, has devoted her life to teaching our children. She has also been very important to Classroom Teachers Association. She has been there anytime any of us have asked her to. She has spent the last 5 years that I know of working as faculty representative, and believe me, that's the hardest job in Classroom Teachers Association. It's hard to get up here in front of everyone to speak, but it's a whole lot harder to have to get everyone to do what you want them to do on the individual campuses. And she does an excellent job at that. So I would like to present our Faculty Representative of the Year, Ms. Bonnie Birch. Ms. Bonnie, we're very proud to give that to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Said no speeches. Okay, our second honoree, as I said earlier, has devoted his life to entertaining, to reporting about all of the events in the school district, and he's just a really nice person also. I don't think that there has ever been a time that any teacher has ever called him and asked him to do something, to come and report about a child getting any kind of an award or anything that we have ever asked, that he did not show up and was thrilled to death to be there. And so it is my honor to present the Friend of Education Award to Mr. Bill Bradford.
I will make a little speech simply
Right.
because that happens to be my business. First of all, to Danny, I was hoping that this would be an armadillo trap. You probably all know the story. That's what they gave him as his going away present, only now he's announced he's not going. I too had an armadillo trap. Sterling Beckham loaned me one because we had one that was tearing up our place, and 3 mornings running I caught the family cat. The third morning, this was a nasty confrontation. As far as the plaque is concerned, really may I take it on behalf of our staff. The best example I know is one morning, Kelly was working for us, my younger daughter, a number of years ago. Someone came in, I was standing by Kelly's desk, and they said, "I certainly want to thank you for the wonderful publicity you gave our project." And I said, "Well, that's what we're supposed to do." And they said, "You did more than we ever expected." And I said, "Well, that's what we tried to do." And she left, and Kelly said, "You don't have the slightest idea what she's talking about, do you?" And I said, "No." She said, "You get the credit and we do the work, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, and that's the American way." The American way has given me this when it could have gone to Cecil or the rest of our crew, and we thank you very much.
We thank you. Well, last but certainly not least, I think he's had all the armadillo jokes that he wants, so I'm not going to give it up. No, that's all right. We nominated Mr. Durham to be our Administrator of the Year, and shortly after, he decided that he was going to resign. So he put us in a little bit of a fix, I guess you could say, but we were still real honored to have nominated him anyway, and he came over to my room and we talked about it. So he felt like that we shouldn't submit him for nomination for the state award, and we did not do that, but I told him that we were still proud to have had him working for us and doing all the things that he has done. So it's my pleasure to give Mr. Durham the Administrator of the Year award.
By the way, with regard to the armadillo, I caught one night before last. I took him out of the trap yesterday and changed his lifestyle a little bit. But I appreciate this, and I'm going to miss you folks. In fact, retirement the second time was so good, I'm thinking about a third time. Well, as you know, I'm working down at the service center, and give you a little background, be truthful. This thing might have been a little surprise to some people. It wasn't a surprise to people that knew me. I had been talking with Mr. Ferguson Service Center for quite some time about coming back and working part-time. And so I'll have a little time to fool around the farm and that sort of stuff. And the state, in a revamping project, just happened to come along with a part-time position, which fit me. It's called Regional Certification Officer. And what that means in administrative lingo is people who have to get permits and things like that. Instead of it being done at the state level, it's going to be done at each of the region service centers within the regions of the schools that are being served by that center. So this had to be filled, and so that's what promulgated probably the middle of the year. Plus, I think going in the middle of the year is pretty good. It gives the new superintendent, and by the way, I think you'll enjoy Mr. Glover. I've worked with him now for 3.5 years, and not only have we become good friends, I find him very professional, and I think you'll grow to think as much of him as I do. But anyway, that's the background on the reality of what happened. I can't say too much for Mr. Bradford. He and I jolly one another and have become good friends, but your news media, including the paper, and even the other radio station X, our radio stations and our newspaper are very supportive, and they're the ones that generate the perceptions out there.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. 1991 was a bumpy year for the Hopkins County Sheriff's Department, what with the overcrowded jail and employee changes. And this morning, Hopkins County Sheriff Bill Dirk says the crime rate was also up just a bit.
Of course, you know, when you have as many things happening we've had in 1991, we can't say it was a good year, it was a bad year, you know. And of course, and you have the year-end report there, and you can see how many trips we made out of county, the number of miles traveled, and of course over here it shows the number of arrests and the number of inmates that was processed. You know, we processed 1,668 inmates. That was on, and from 1 January of last year through December 31st, we fed 79,074 meals. Mm-hmm.
That's obviously more prisoners than you want to deal with.
Oh, it sure is. Definitely more prisoners we want to deal with. See, actually, we're supposed to only have 48 prisoners as opposed to about I think it averaged out to about 77 prisoners a day, you know. But and we would like to, yeah, but we just have too much of everything, more than everything. We make too many out of state, and we've made, let's say we've already this year made 2 out-of-state trips. Matter of fact, the guy just come back from California just now, less than an hour ago. Returned from California with 2. We've got another one in Arizona we've got to pick up. We've got one in Abilene. We've got this, of course, this is in the state of Texas. One in Abilene we've got to pick up. I think we've got to pick up 2 more in Harris County, and another one in Dallas waiting for us to be picked up.
When your deputies make trips out of state or out of the county, does that take away from any street?
Oh yeah. See, the man that made the trip last night to California, see, actually he was supposed to have been on duty yesterday afternoon, but he couldn't be because he had to go to California last night. His plane left DFW last night at 5:30.
476 offenses, is that a lot or about average or what?
No, that's about average. That's not that many offenses, you know. That's about average for the offenses that were reported. Now, of course, we have a lot of offenses that occur that people do not want to report, you know. Somebody come by and kick someone's door in or does something to someone's property and they think they know who it is and they just don't want to file upon them. You know.
Seems like you spend a lot of time dealing with parole violators too, 128 of those.
We spend a lot of time with parole violators, we sure do. Of course now, the state's real cooperative, and of course in Hopkins County on the parole and in probation violators, you know, they cooperated with us on those people.
Theft by check, also quite a few of those.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. Well, and of course that's just what we arrested. We've got 6 or 7 times that many warrants sitting over there.
And 304 DWI cases. And in your case, isn't DWI a little more dangerous because you're dealing with people out on county roads where...
Yeah, now the 300, okay, now that 304 DWI cases that was processed, now some of those people, that's from the city and DPS also. As a matter of fact, the majority of them are from the city and DPS.
38 that you actually...
Yeah, right. We're on the 30. The rest of them, DPS and the city arrested those people for DWI.
And something that a lot of people may not be aware of, 28,272 hours that inmates perform.
Yeah, that's labor that inmates perform. And the labor that they perform primarily are at Heritage Park and out the Civic Center. And of course, a few other things. Now, there are some that we didn't, that inmates performed, of course, we didn't put on there, like clean up county office buildings here. We didn't put that on there, and some of the other things that they do, you know. Sometimes they go down and help with commodities, you know, those things are not on there, you know, because it's not.
What do you expect most of these statistics to do in 1992?
I hope they decrease, with the exception of the inmates, hours inmates perform. I'd like to see everything else go down.
We'll take a look at the city's crime figures for 1991 next week. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
We're doing just about all we can do with what we have here.
Pound of marijuana is not going to end the drug problem, but it's a start. Hopkins County Sheriff's Department Saturday afternoon confiscated that amount of narcotics from a vehicle at the 120-mile marker that would be out near Terry's Restaurant on Interstate 30.
Jim Brigman, I guess, and he was out here in Woodrow Wilson, was out on patrol, and about 12:48 p.m. they stopped this, I guess about looked like a 1979 Lincoln up here at the 120-mile marker, which is near the old Terry's Restaurant, the I-7, FM 67 cutoff up there. And of course, they were talking to the individual, two people, the driver and the rider. And the rider, they discovered the marijuana in the vehicle, and the rider said this was his marijuana, and also the weapon was his also. That my understanding that he said the driver of the vehicle didn't know anything about this.
What kind of weapon?
It was a 357 Magnum, 4-inch, 357 Magnum. And said they went right to Mount Pleasant. We was going to take this marijuana too.
For selling purposes?
For selling purposes, for resale. It was taken from Dallas to Mount Pleasant for resale.
Did they go peacefully? Were there any problems?
Oh yeah, no, it's no problem. There was no problem. They surrendered peacefully. There was no problems at all.
Have they been charged?
They have not been arraigned yet. They've not been arraigned yet. They're still waiting. They'll be arraigned sometime this morning at Cletus Mills, JP.
A pound of marijuana, put that in, for those who don't know, how much marijuana would that be? Is that a lot? Or?
Well, it's not that much. It's 1 pound, 6 ounces. And the street value is between $800 and $900 probably.
Interstate 30 continues to be kind of a pipeline for that.
Probably, yes. This is, of course, this is the first, and I understand our task force have got some stuff off the interstate, but this is the first time that we've gotten anything off the interstate in quite a while. And Mount Vernon, Franklin County, they made a couple of arrests off the interstate, all probably about 2 months ago.
Is it getting unusual to get marijuana anymore? You don't?
No, marijuana is the easiest thing we get anymore. The unusual thing, okay, so, of course, is cocaine or amphetamine. Yeah, that's kind of unusual, but marijuana is the common thing now.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. It's a frightening thought. What if someone you know, perhaps a loved one, were to wander away from a nursing home? They may not be able to remember where they came from or who they are. Well, Hopkins County Sheriff's Department has a new program. It's called ESP, Extra Special Persons. And Hopkins County Crime Prevention Officer Doug Stutz and Jim Brigman explain.
Extra Special Persons. It's part of our triad, and I found out later that just recently that we are the first triad in the state of Texas. That's the cooperation between the police, the sheriff, and the ARP. And one of our projects is going to be the ESP, the Extra Special Person. Jim Brigman, a couple of weeks ago, had got the information trying to see what I was going to do with it. And Jim come across a problem. He decided he would be the one that did it.
Okay, what is that problem, Jim?
Well, now, I run across a situation in Cumbie. There's a dairyman called in and said this man had been there since 5 o'clock the day before. And when I went out there, the subject, he was incoherent. He couldn't tell me who he was. And I asked him for identification. He fumbled around. I asked him if he had a billfold. And he reached back and to see if he did, and he pulled it out. And he acted like he was, couldn't get it out. So he let me have it, and he did have some driver's license on him. And he did have identification on it, so I realized there's something wrong with him. So I went back and I radioed in the dispatcher and asked if anybody had been reported missing. And they said yes, they had. And I told them this man's name, and they said he'd been missing since 5 o'clock previously. And all in my mind, if it froze last night, that poor man would have been dead. And he's in his late 70s from Campbell, Texas. If I had asked him where he was, how long he'd been there, he started just before daylight. He didn't know they already knew that he'd been there since 5 o'clock previously. But anyhow, that's when I got back in, Doug Stutz made mention about this stuff. I said, yeah, and then I told him about this situation. He said, would you like to sponsor it? And I said, I sure would, because we need something like that.
A way to identify people.
A way to identify people, because, and these bracelets were ideal. I know that really hit the spot. So there's going to be occasions when they don't have nothing on them.
See, that's number 10, that's extra special person.
So what happens is, let me see if I get this right. You will have that person's information down here about them, and if they're wearing this bracelet, they know to call you, and you.
They can call the sheriff's department or the police department and give them the number, and we'll have all the necessary information regarding that one person, in which we can notify the people that should know about his disposition. We'll have primary information on it.
Primarily, what we want to do initially is those people who suffer from Alzheimer's and who are likely to walk away. We want to put the bracelet on those persons first in the county.
Okay. So it's so you think it's a good program?
Oh, yeah, it's a good program. I love the program. I sure do. That way, if an individual's out and he's wearing one of these bracelets, then we can tell right away who that individual is by contacting either the sheriff's department, the police department, or the hospital.
The home care services out the hospital has agreed to be the registering agency for us. That's at room 206 at the Memorial Hospital. And they've got the forms out there. The bracelets are free. The hospital may ask for $1 or $2 to pay for the film, taking some pictures. I told them that'd be all right, but the bracelets themselves, we furnish those. Anybody, just contact them. It's 7671 extension 202 or 204 at the hospital.
He says that they would also like to expand the project to include children, and they would like a little input from the public on that. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. The accolades continue to come in for the district champion Wildcat football team. About a month ago, they placed 6 players on the coaches' all-state poll. Well, now the prestigious Texas Sports Writers poll is out, and it's dominated by Sulphur Springs.
Never had a season that we got as much recognition as this team did. Of course, we got high state ranking and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of all-district kids, and then this all-state thing just kind of, I guess, puts a cap on it. I think we had several in the AP version of the All-State, and then this is kind of this one here is the Texas Sports Writers Association version of the All-State, which both of them are official All-State teams. But last year we didn't get anybody on the AP poll, and this year we got several. This year I think last year we had 2 on the All-State. This year we end up with 6 on the coaches version. I mean on the Sports Writers version. We had Mark Severe was the first team kicker. And actually, he got mentioned again as the 3rd-team punter. So he was the first-team selection as kicker and the 3rd-team selection as punter. Michael Hicks was the first-team All-State linebacker. Damian Bell who was not mentioned in the AP version, was a first-team All-State defensive back. Shane Allison was chosen second-team All-State offensive tackle. Hershon Lewis was chosen a third-team defensive tackle, All-State defensive tackle, and then, as I mentioned, Sevier was the punter. Then I think we had Terry Mosley on the AP version, was honorable mention defensive back, and Vinnie Sims was an honorable mention All-State linebacker. So, my goodness, I've never had a team with that kind of recognition.
All of these players deserve a lot of accolades, but let's put in perspective Mark Sevier, who made first team in both polls, which means he's not only in the state, but he's one of the best kickers in the nation, isn't he?
He certainly is. Sevier had a great year. He had a dream year for a kicker, a dream year. You know, to be mentioned like that is just it's almost unbelievable.
The Sports Writers poll is generally regarded as the official all-state poll for the state of Texas. Cecil Savage, 18 Sports. These are good times for Sulphur Springs Lady Wildcat basketball coach Randy Smith. Last Friday night, the team traveled to Texarkana to take on Texas High. It was the first District 15 4A contest of the year, and the Lady Wildcats came away with a 53-48 victory.
Anytime you can go to Texarkana and win, it's a plus. Their team is a lot better than it was last year. They played real hard. You know, we just played pretty well, and it's a good thing we did because they gave us all we wanted.
Now, they were a team that had 11 wins, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that they were doing as well as they were doing, but I knew that they had most of their players back from last year, and but they've made a couple of changes with, you know, they've got a new coach now, and he's changed a few people around a little bit, and I really think it's been real beneficial for them. But I told our girls before the game that the advantage we'd have over them was that we'd play a tougher schedule. If it was a close game, we would be better prepared for it, and that's really what turned out. We handled the last 2 or 3 minutes a whole lot better than they did.
How about some individual performances?
We had 3 excellent individual performances, I thought. I thought Kay Harper played maybe her best game. She ended up with 14 points, 7 rebounds, 4 or 5 steals, 4 or 5 assists. Kelly Bell had 12 points, 4 assists and 4 steals. And Brandy Sachs only scored 8 points, but she had 14 rebounds and 3 or 4 steals and 3 or 4 assists, played an excellent game. And then Sheila Sims led us in scoring with 15 points. And most of those were in the second half when we really needed them. She was in foul trouble the whole game, and so she really didn't spend as much time on the court as she would have otherwise, but she still was able to get 15 for us.
Let me talk to you about a little character here. I thought your girls show a lot of character by going to Texas High, the long road trip, and you fell behind in the fourth quarter and then came back.
That wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. You know, we had, you know, as well as we played, we did one thing just awfully bad, and that was rebound under the Texas High basket. And our inability to do that caused us to get some foul trouble. We didn't get the rebound, so we tried to make up for it, and we fouled. With 6 minutes to go, we had 5 players on our team who had 4 fouls. And 4 of them were starters, and then the 5th one being our 6th man, Tanya Johnson. And so for the majority of the fourth quarter, the people we had on the court all had 4 fouls except for Kelly Bell. And our inside defense was not very good because of that, and Texas High took advantage of it and scored 3 or 4 times in a row down the court and took the lead. And in fact, they took the lead on us twice. Both times they did it, we answered right back, and that was the thing that impressed me, was when we couldn't get aggressive with them, but yet we still did what we had to on our end of the court. And then we made the free throws. They shot 10 free throws more than we did, but we made 11 and they only made 10.
You don't have a lot of time to celebrate because tomorrow night you got to turn right back around.
I tell you, this district's something else. You know, here we are. You know, we're 16-5 now. We're gonna be, you know, we're playing. Everybody we play's got a better record than us in our district, except for Liberty Ilo. And Mount Pleasant got beat by Paris pretty good the other night for the first half. If they lose tomorrow night, they're out. And so I know they're going to come over here ready to play.
And they're ranked in the top 20, at least they were.
They were ranked in the top 20 in the TABC poll. And they've beaten some teams that were ranked in Class A and Class 2A, so I know they're pretty good. Their disadvantage is they don't have any size. Their tallest player is about 5'8" or 5'9", and I hope we can take advantage of that inside. I feel certain that's what Paris did to them Friday night.
That game with Mount Pleasant will be tomorrow night at Wildcat Gym. Meanwhile, the Wildcats, and we're talking about the boys, were hosting Lindale Friday night in Wildcat Gym. Sulphur Springs is coming toward the end of their non-district schedule, and Lindale gave the Cats a rough time before Sulphur Springs pulled away to win 63-53. And Coach Dick Schofield was happy. It wasn't a pretty win, but he'll take it.
They started 6'4", 6'3", 6 foot, you know, and that immediately when you say 6'4", 6'3", that's a problem because a lot of their points they lobbed it over the top into the post man, and we just couldn't we couldn't defend against that. But no, I think we mentioned it was not a polished ball game by any stretch of the imagination. Lindale is kind of committed to the running game, and they press the whole ball game. Of course, we're not too shy about the ball out and going down and putting it up, and we press a little bit, and Lindale was really trying to get back into the winning scheme, and they were really, it was a rough ball game. I mean, Terry Mosley got dumped on a fast break one time, and I didn't know if he was going to get up, and Junior Johnson got knocked to the floor, and you know, it's I tell you what though, last night I can't remember a team of mine playing as hard as they did last night. I mean, they were really playing hard and hustled as much as they could. And but whenever you have that, you know, some good things are gonna happen. But you know, we're gonna have to get a little more polished in certain situations. But I was really proud of the effort. We really fought hard.
Well, the game certainly had to have been of value to you. They pushed you all the way. They were within 3 points of you at about 3.5 minutes left to go. And again, at this time of the year, sure you want to win, but you're getting ready for district. Let's face it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of hard, you know, as a coach. You know, the people up in the stands say, "Hey, you're ahead by 10, and you're coach, you're yelling and screaming and throwing a fit and mad on the sidelines. Why? Yeah, calling a timeout with 1 minute and 20 seconds to go in the game. But you know, these are the things that we've got to get lined out. You know, we had a 10-point lead with 1.5 minutes to go, and we hurry down and shoot a 3-pointer. I mean, as fast as we can get down there and pull the trigger, we're shooting a 3-pointer and miss it, and they get the rebound, and we chase them down almost like we're trying to mug them in the alley and foul them. And put them on the free throw line. So 1 minute and 20, instead of having the ball up 10 and trying to milk some time off the clock, they're on the free throw line, almost in a position to cut it to 8 points. And you know, anything can happen in the last minute of the game. So I just wanted to stop it right there, get the guys over and say, hey, look at the clock and think a little bit, and let's try to play a little bit smarter. And you know, I think at that time, that's when the attention of the players after the ball game, if you go in and say, hey, remember back 1.5 minutes, no, they're not going to remember that. We need to get that squared away right now. But you know, again, they were on the free throw line with 1 minute and 20 left, and we were ahead by 10, and we won by 10, so we must have kept our composure the last minute and a half.
I'm trying to remember, you immediately after that timeout did turn it around, got your balance back. I think they fouled you shortly after that, and the beginning of the end was there.
No, when they fouled Henley. Well, he's just holding the ball, and there's two of them on him, and he got the foul, and I told Bill, I said, now you know what he's doing.
Well, what Gerald's talking about, I made the statement there, he's leading by 10 points, it's 1.5 minutes, why is he calling a timeout? You called the timeout, immediately we picked up the foul, took control of the game, and Gerald snidely remarked, now, Brad, you know why he called the timeout.
Well, thank you, Gerald, for taking up for me there. Right?
It sounds like, don't you want Derrick Henley to have the ball late in the game like that?
Yeah, you bet. As a matter of fact, we changed our whole inbounds philosophy. Derrick Henley is the inbounds passer against their press because he's such a good ball handler at a post position. And we get the ball in and reverse it right back to him, and he can dribble the ball or make the pass, and he sees the floor. we changed that and had our point guard throw the ball in directly to Derek because we knew he was going to get mugged.
The Wildcats will take on the Quitman Bulldogs tomorrow night in Quitman. That'll close out the non-district schedule. District play begins Friday night when they travel to North Lamar. Cecil Savage, 18 Country Sports.
Johnson picked up by Larry. Looks for somebody to pass it to.
Elite groups are one of a kind. They are often not seen unless it's absolutely necessary. And the Sulphur Springs Tactical Unit falls into that category. Well equipped and well motivated, they're ready for any hostile situation that may arise in Sulphur Springs. But today, they took time out to show sixth graders from Sulphur Springs Middle School how their job operates. Sixth graders also took a tour of all of the municipal government of Sulphur Springs.
This is some of the equipment that's used on the tactical unit. What we're employed to do, we're a support group of the police department, and we actually all have, the entire unit has regular police jobs.
This is a Remington 870 12 gauge. It's got an extension on it, plus it has a flashlight on the end of it. It's carried by the entry team on occasion whenever necessary. It's a pistol grip, so you can hold it from the hip or shoot it from the shoulder if need to be. This is a short barrel shotgun that we use on entry on occasion whenever necessary. It's an automatic shotgun, so it's just bam, bam, bam. It's, you know, semi-automatic. The barrel is shorter than 18 inches, but it's registered with the ATF. I showed you the MP5 submachine gun. It's fully automatic or select fire. It's a 9mm machine gun. It has attached 2 30-round clips. It's also laser sighted. Of course, you can see the laser there, and the laser is set up with the impact area for the bullet.
Okay, so wherever you put that laser, that's where the bullet is going to go.
Yes. I then have I have a Ruger 223. This is a Ac556 machine gun. It's select fire. It's full auto or a three round burst.
Is that a Russian-made gun?
No, it's an American-made gun. It's a Ruger. It looks a little bit like the AK-47, the Kalashnikov, but it's not. And then the rest of this is just standard personal equipment that each officer carries. The helmet is designed to stop certain rounds, just like the vest is. Gas mask here, military-style gas mask. And we have found that this is the best gas mask that is available there to anyone. The gas masks they have a lot more maintenance than some, but we've tried several different masks, and this is the best one that I can find available. It's military, U.S. military. Again, the personal equipment that we talked about.
You have night vision.
Then we have some night vision equipment that we use to see in the dark with if we need to, without illumination, without standard illumination. That's about it, other than on our personal equipment. You can tell this is, if you want to, Cecil, pick that up.
Oh,
that's not light.
That's probably about 30 pounds.
Probably about 35 pounds. We carry first aid, 2 canteens, and enough sustenance for a couple of days if we're out in the field for that long, which we have been before. Our primary purpose is to save lives, okay, and whatever the situation be. We totally back up in our support function of the patrol division of the police department. If there is any instance such as a barricaded person, a hostage taking, a felony warrant, a high-risk warrant that needs to be served, high-risk search warrants that need to be served by the unit, then the chief calls upon us to do it. We train together as a unit, and we have been activated on several occasions to do just that.
You're ready to go whenever you call on.
Sure. We train monthly, several times during the month, and we stay not only well trained but well equipped.
Now you're talking to some kids this morning. What's the message you're trying to get to them?
really what we're trying to get across to them through this whole thing is, of course, it's not just this table that's involved. Through this whole thing is familiarization with the police department. We want people to be familiar with what we are, who we are, and what we do, and let them know that there's more to the police department than just receiving a citation out there. And we're not bad guys. We're good people, and it's a basic familiarization with the department.
Yeah, that's one of the functions of criminal investigation is fingerprinting. Today we have these children coming through, and what we wanted to do is just basically show them what we can do with different stuff. Our most basic part is the black powder upon the surface, such as this glass here. And fingerprints on it, we'd brush it with black powder and take the lift off, and this is what a lift would look like, one that came from a crime scene. But not only the black powder and the brush is not the only thing that we have. We have anhydrous spray, which we have a paper that's been handled, or for some reason we want to fingerprint it, see who's handling it. We treat it with anhydrous, which we let it set at least 36 hours, and we get a fingerprint. And the fingerprint on the paper usually come up to be purple. On this one is unique is that a fingerprint on this paper here was basically developed with powder from your Xerox copy machine or your copy machine.
It sounds like most things, it's become somewhat high tech.
Oh yeah. Now they're going into the part that you can treat certain object, maybe this glass, with powder that can be used under laser. And when you use laser, I've actually seen where you use normal, or what I say, everyday technique to develop fingerprints, and then come back and use it under laser and you get a fingerprint. Now they're going with different waves of light, white, and on down to the different colors of the lights in the color white light.
Would it be safe to say that if there's a print there, you'll find it and be able to ID that person?
I'd say if there's a print there, we'll find it. Now, quality of the print depends upon how well it's developed. With the technology that's coming, I say around the year 2000, they're estimating that if the police department or law enforcement agency has the equipment in the car, that they can stop an individual on traffic stop, put his right thumb into a terminal, and within 5, 10 seconds or 30 seconds, you will have a picture, a mugshot, and a rap sheet based on that thumbprint. Right now, Texas Department of Public Safety is initiating what they call an AFAS system, an automated fingerprint identification system in Austin, and they're hoped to have it online by 1993, in which we can basically take an unknown fingerprint, let the computer, it's a computer, and let the computer search their files of known prints and get a list of possible candidates.
What kind of gas is this?
This is not gas, this is smoke. It's purple smoke. We have purple smoke and red smoke that are signified by the colors on the top, and I have some yellow and I have some white smoke in the back. And what the different colors of smoke are used for different things.
Aren't those used for like seeing in the dark?
That's night vision goggles, yeah. We use those for seeing in the dark, total darkness, and they can illuminate the inside of a room.
Which one's blowing up here?
These two are explosives. This is a military style grenade simulator, and this is a commercially purchased commercially purchased grenade simulator.
The kids seem to be genuinely fascinated with the array of weapons and equipment. The Sulphur Springs Tactical Unit practices about twice monthly to make sure they stay sharp. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
We have anybody here who's going to be police women or police men?
That's good.
That's good. Keep your grades straight.
You got a copy?